All right, try to make a little, so I'm gonna attach some sketchings, talk about a little bit, try to add to what Bob was talking about. It was nice to put those videos from Master Chen doing the Shi and the other movements and the little bit of training there. And so I thought I'd try to piggyback on that a little bit and talk about some of the inside stuff which applies to what George is talking about, what Master Chen would do, what Master Wu, what we're trying to do in the Lao Tzu. But talk about, try to create some internal visuals that I don't think most of us get a chance to hear about or put together. So there's a looseness in Lao Tzu and whatnot, but George doing me loose. But normally we're flipping from the shoulder and the elbow and the wrist and the hand. It needs to come from the inside. So in the first picture, like figure A, if I can mark it that way, showing the central channel. We also have the two side channels, which get overlooked or forgotten. And those run down to, they got this area called the shoulder's nest, which is this space here, this little triangle that's inside. And that's the top of the left and right channel. So we call it a shoulder's nest because, or a bird's nest sometimes, because you can get enough of a divot in there when it's open, when the rib and the spiral is right, it's open enough that you have the egg in the armpit, but you also have a gap big enough that a bird can make a nest. That's the visual, at least the way it was explained years and years ago to me. So you've got the top of the left and right side channel, and then it goes in the eyes, left and right channel, the head, I mean, goes through the line of the eyes. So it crosses over up through the side of the neck, goes up to the top of the head. These are the side channels. So if you were coming down to the line of the eyes over to here, and we go down left and right to the qua. The qua is the bottom of the left and right channels. But we also have that center channel, where we have the Zhongding. So we have, Wei Yin, Bai Wei on top, Wei Yin, post, the string that we all supposed to hang off of, chin in slightly, tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, and let this hang. And then we have the upper dantian, middle dantian, and lower dantian. And then we have Ming Men in the back, which is in the spine area, in the back of the microcosmic orbit. But think spine, that's the back. So it's easy to, and it would be one way to discuss it, is that Ming Men is part of the dantian area. But it could also be said dantian is this triangular area in the pelvis, and that's the circular area of movement and circulation and organ movement. The Ming Men being the structure of where a lot of our movements come back into load into Ming Men. So a bear, tiger, cougar, horse, gathering the energy to expand out, gathering in, boom, it comes into this Ming Men area. But you can say the feeling is also like you have the ball of dantian in this region. So everyone's trying to explain as best they can in their imagery how these things work. So there's going to be crossover in ideas, there's going to be disagreements in definitions. But I'm trying to give a picture to a Western perspective, a little bit of what George is trying to talk about, in much more from a Chinese perspective. So again, key things, and this will be looking for in the drawings, because they're going to get a little convoluted because the lines start to cross all over the place. But you have the central channel, this runs out in front of the spine. You have the left and right, the side channels that run through the shoulder's nest down to the qua. So the shoulder's nest is the qua for the arm. The qua is the shoulder's nest for the leg. It feeds the energy down both sides. Another way of picturing it. But three lines, 1, 2, and 3. Each of these, this is what I want to get to, is a spiral. We know the spine, turning around the central channel, turning from the tailbone, on up, not leading with your head, lead from the dantian or wingman area and lower through the pelvis, boom. And that will activate and help open the quads as well as you go through those regions. But we forget that we have these two lines here. These are like two barber poles in America. You have the barber pole that spins with the red or blue stripe going down, and it tends to spin like a corkscrew. So we have the turning of these. This is where that rib connection comes in. And I think a lot of us, and I know I've struggled for years trying to understand how to make that connection George talks about, make that alive so the ribs connect. Because we're always thinking, or at least the impression I get for most of us, is we're trying to suck this down and just pull it in, and we end up just closing, just pulling tight or locking down. And that's not what George is doing. It's open and alive, but it connects through there. So in the first picture, figure A, if I get this right, it's just trying to highlight where the three posts are. So if I turn from the center post, I can turn this way, I can turn this way. I'm just being real superficial about this. But then also I have this spiraling in and spiraling out. It's not the arm and the shoulder joint, okay? It's the rib closes in, the rib spirals out. The shoulder can still then turn separate. So this rolls in on the side. Same thing, rolls in, and the line, the rib rolls out. And it's underneath the rib. The line is underneath the rib, but it's the ribs that are allowing that flexing. That's going to tie in a lot to how alive your sternum is, this middle dantian area. If main men is kind of the back of the lower dantian structurally, your rib cage, sternum, and spine below the shoulder blades, but the sternum in front, you don't have really a sternum down here. You have a sternum here. This is going to restrict a lot of those motions and stop us from doing that. So the first motion to just talk about, the last one I'll talk about a little less because it just gets more convoluted for right now. But we'll throw our arm out to the side, loose, boom, boom. The string or the rope from the spine, the brick on the end, lancet, palm back, whatever, and rail stop, loose, boom. And again, we end up doing these motions in some of the basic exercises. And we're really trying to be loose. A lot of us are stiff, and that's really hinging from here, more even than here, and that's really on the outside. But even as we get looser, we tend to be hinging just from the shoulder, elbow, wrist, hand. What we're looking for is to come from the center out. However, this is what I think gets missed a lot, and therefore we don't get to doing what George is trying to do and Master we're doing. And don't get me wrong, I'm willing to say there's a lot more stuff they might be doing internally, or higher level guys that are doing than just this, but we gotta start somewhere, and this is pretty hard to get to typically for most people anyway, because you have to change all this tissue structure. But Tai Chi, and George will say this, used to say this a lot, is a counterbalance thing. We want to counterbalance. So that implies we have to cross center a lot of times so that we have opposite equal reaction. So that we don't just keep going this way and tip over, we need something going this way. If something goes up, something goes down. Something goes forward, something goes back, something goes left, something goes right. That's the idea of the 6 directions, the ball expanding, balloon expanding in all directions, same time, same thing as it closes. It closes from all directions at the same time. So what I'm going to suggest to you, to a Western viewpoint, I don't know if this works as good for you guys in the Eastern Europe and stuff like that, but for a Western mindset in America, I'm going to say structurally, think of the pole that goes down to the ribs. The ribs have to become like accordion, like playing an accordion, has to become alive and spring. And that is what's going to stop most people from doing this, because they don't take the time to change this tissue. We spend the time learning form, we do these motions, we do some other basic exercise, but we don't change the connective tissue and the really small muscle tissue that's in the fascial planes that are holding this stuff together. But when this comes down and swings to go out, it would be one thing to say it comes from the sternum or central channel, but underneath the sternum and go boom. Then it would be dantian, shoulder, elbow, hand. It would make sense. It's closer to the center, and there is that involvement. What I'm going to say is there's this, the barber pole on the side channel comes into play first, so this will roll in. Central channel is here. There's the big spiral. So you can spiral. I'm going to go this way to go out. I'm going to spiral. This spirals, so turning the waist to the left, in my case it's to the left. Turning to the left, the right side channel is going to spiral in, which will open and really drop. If I do that, the shoulder drops. I'm not trying to force it down. It will drop. Very flat. The back is still very open in the shoulder blades, but this drops. Got that space. And normally we stick the shoulder up. If I spiral this one in at the rib cage, now this one's dropped. This is flat in the front, got that shoulder's missed, and the back is still open. So if they both spiral, and I can rest the arms down, there's still a gap without trying for the egg in the armpit to have that space, and the shoulders are down. This is very like a bear. You see a bear walking, there's almost no shoulders. He's loose. Okay? But we tend to be coming from the shoulder joint, and so now when we sit, our shoulders are up. We're stuck. It's not spiraling the rib underneath the rib and letting that just fall. So for the arm to come in, we're going to turn the post, center post, turn the barber pole. That goes even further in. Now the shoulder drops. Now when I unwind, it's the central channel, barber pole, elbow, well, shoulder, elbow, wrist, finger. So, boom, 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 boom. But that's still one side. It's going to overextend me. So, here's where yin yang comes into play. I have a barber pole on this side. So, in order to spiral in, and we're just talking kind of laterally and horizontally right now, we're not talking about the diagonal yin and yang. That'll come in later, which is kind of sketched out in the third picture and whatnot. This barber pole is going to turn in. This pole's center pole will turn here to gather to go out to the side. This turns in here. This pole is going to counter turn by rolling in, yin yang, opposing. Both turn in. This one rolls in with the center going this way as well. So it wraps in, and now to unwind, think of unwinding these two. So center pole turns, outside arm, that barber pole turns in. They both turn in, and then they can open. And when they open, there's your cross the body to whip that out, handle the whip, boom. Again, this is just on this level, horizontally. Okay, this all has to go down to the earth and out as well. Okay? But 20,000 pieces at a time, please, you know. So anyway, turning, but I'm going to close these two. So instead of swinging the arm from the shoulder and the elbow and the hand, or swinging from the rib, trying to swing from the rib out, chest out, or swinging from the spine out, which becomes a lot of effort. You just feel the effort. You're trying to do it, but you're trying to keep yourself from tipping over. The closing is, it becomes closing,